Hey everyone, my name's Emily, and if you're watching this, you're about to hear a story that still feels unreal to me, even now. I'm 35, a freelance interior designer living out in the American suburbs. Think rolling hills, quiet roads, that kind of vibe. I've spent years building my life from scratch, but growing up, well, let's just say I was never the star of the show in my family. That spot was reserved for my older brother, Nathan. He's 38 now, a guy who's tried his hand at real estate but never quite made it big. Still, to my parents, Nathan's always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I can still picture it, me as a kid, always fading into the background while Nathan soaked up the spotlight. It wasn't that I was shy or anything, I just liked different things. I was the girl who'd spend hours sketching room layouts or dreaming up cozy spaces, while Nathan was out there charming everyone with his big personality. My parents ate it up. "Nathan's got such a bright future," they'd say, beaming at him. I was lucky if they noticed I was even in the room. I remember this one day when I was 15. Clear as anything. I'd just won a school design contest. Not some little art project either. I'd beaten out dozens of kids with this detailed blueprint for a community library. I was so proud, clutching that certificate like it was gold. I ran home, bursting through the door, yelling, "Mom, Dad, look, I won the design contest!" My mom barely glanced up from the kitchen counter. "That's nice, Emily," she said, her voice flat, like she was humoring me. Then she turned right back to Nathan, who was sprawled on the couch. "Honey, don't forget your basketball tryouts tomorrow. We need to get you new sneakers." I stood there, certificate in hand, while Dad chimed in, "Nathan's gonna be a star on that team, you watch." No one asked about my contest. No one cared that I'd spent weeks on that project, pouring my heart into every line. Meanwhile, Nathan grinned at me from the couch and said, "What's that, a drawing prize? Cute." I forced a smile and went to my room, taping the certificate to my wall where it'd stay, unseen by anyone but me. That's how it always was. Nathan got the praise, the attention, the "you're so special" talks. I got the leftovers. Hand-me-down clothes, a pat on the head if I was lucky. Growing up, I heard it all the time. "Why can't you be more like Nathan?" It stung, because I wasn't trying to compete with him. I just wanted to be seen for who I was. But in a family obsessed with his charm, my quiet passion for design didn't stand a chance. Looking back, I think that's what pushed me to work harder. I told myself, one day I'll build something they can't ignore. I didn't know then how right I'd be, or how far my own family would go to try and take it all away. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, just picture a kid who loved creating beautiful spaces, stuck in a house where no one cared to look twice. That was me. And trust me, this story's only just beginning. So after years of feeling like a shadow in my own family, I decided I wasn't going to wait for their approval anymore. I threw myself into what I loved, designing spaces that made people feel something. By my mid-20s, I'd started freelancing as an interior designer, taking on small gigs at first, redoing a friend's living room, sketching layouts for local cafes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I'd stay up late, coffee in hand, tweaking floor plans until they felt just right. Slowly, word got around, and my little business started to grow. Fast forward to 30, and I'd saved up enough to do something big, something I'd dreamed about since I was a kid, sketching in my room. I bought a small farm out in the countryside, not a huge place, just a few acres with an old barn and a cozy house, but it was perfect. I could see it all in my head. I'd turn the barn into a studio, host clients there, maybe even rent it out for workshops. The house would be my sanctuary. Wood floors, big windows, a place to breathe. I closed the deal, got the keys, and stood there in the middle of that empty field, feeling this rush of pride I can't even describe. For once, I wasn't the overlooked kid. I'd built something real. I couldn't wait to tell my family. I thought maybe this time they'd see it, see me. So I called them up, practically buzzing with excitement. "Mom, Dad, I bought a farm. It's got a barn and everything. I'm gonna make it my design studio." There was this long pause on the other end. Then Mom said, "A farm? What are you gonna do with that? Grow potatoes?" She laughed like it was a joke. Dad chimed in. "Sounds like a lot of work, Emily. You sure you're up for it?" I tried to explain the vision, the business plan, but before I could finish, Mom cut me off. "Ooh, hold on. Nathan's here. He just got a new car. Wait till you see it." And just like that, the conversation flipped. Nathan had bought some shiny SUV, on a loan from my parents no less, and suddenly that's all they cared about. "It's got leather seats," Mom gushed. "He's doing so well for himself," Dad added. I sat there, phone to my ear, listening to them go on and on about Nathan's car, while my farm, my huge, hard-earned win, got brushed aside like it was nothing. Nathan even jumped on the line, smirking through his words. "A farm, huh? What's next? Chickens? Good luck with that, sis." I hung up feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I tried not to let it get to me. I threw myself into fixing up the place, painting the house, sanding down the barn floors, turning it into this beautiful mix of rustic and modern. A year later, I landed a big contract, designing the lobby for a boutique hotel downtown. It was a game changer. My name in a magazine, clients calling from out of state. I invited my parents out to the farm to celebrate, thinking, this is it. They'll have to be proud now. They showed up, walked around, but it was the same old story. Mom peeked into the barn and said, "It's nice, I guess, but it's so far from everything." Dad nodded. "Yeah, and it's just you out here. Kind of lonely, huh?" No congrats, no, "Wow, you did this." Nothing. Then, as they were leaving, I overheard Mom muttering to Dad, "Nathan's closing a deal next week. That's something to brag about." A deal? I knew Nathan's deals. He'd been flipping houses for years, usually losing more money than he made, but to them it was always gold. I stood on my porch, watching their car kick up dust down the driveway, and felt that familiar ache. My farm, my career, these things I'd poured my soul into, didn't matter to them, not next to Nathan. It hurt, I won't lie. There were nights I'd sit in that barn, surrounded by my sketches, wondering why I kept trying to prove myself to people who'd never care. But then I'd look out at the fields, the house I'd made my own, and think, this is enough. I'm enough. I had no idea, though, that everything I'd built was about to be threatened, not by bad luck or a shaky economy, but by the people I called family. And trust me, what happened next, it's the kind of thing you'd never see coming. All right, so things had been simmering for a while, but I never thought they'd boil over like this. A few months after I'd settled into the farm barn studio up and running, clients booking me left and right, I got a call from Mom. "Emily would love for you to come over for dinner this weekend," she said, all sweet and casual. I was surprised, honestly. Family dinners weren't really my thing anymore. They'd stopped inviting me after I didn't fit in, with Nathan's loud stories and their constant fawning over him, but I thought, maybe they're warming up to me. Maybe they finally see what I've been building. So I said yes. I showed up that Saturday night, dressed nice, even brought a bottle of wine from a local vineyard near my farm. Thought it'd be a cool touch. We sat down, made small talk over Mom's roast chicken. Nathan wasn't there yet, which felt off, but I didn't think much of it. Then, after dessert, Dad cleared his throat. That serious look on his face I knew meant something big was coming. "Emily," he said, folding his hands on the table, "we've been talking, your mom and me, about your farm." My stomach did a little flip. "What about it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom jumped in, her tone all soft and reasonable, like she was breaking bad news to a kid. "Well, honey, it's such a big place, and it's just you out there. Nathan's been working on this new idea, a little agricultural business. He's got plans, real plans, but he needs space to get it off the ground." I blinked, not sure where this was going. "Okay, and—" Dad leaned forward. "We think it'd be best if you gave the farm to Nathan. He and his wife could use it. Start fresh, build something for their future. You're single, no kids. You don't need all that land." For a second I thought I'd heard wrong. I set my glass down, hands shaking a little. "I'm sorry, what? Give him my farm?" Mom nodded like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Yes, dear. Hand over the keys, let him take it over. You could move back closer to town, get a little apartment or something." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline, but their faces were dead serious. Then the front door opened, and in walked Nathan, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Hey, sis," he said, plopping into a chair. "I heard you're thinking about doing the family a solid." I couldn't believe it. "This is my farm," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "I bought it with my money, every cent I earned from years of hustling. I turned it into something. You're asking me to just give it away?" Mom's face tightened, that disappointed look she always got when I didn't play along. "Emily, don't be selfish. Nathan needs the space more than you do. He's got a family to think about." Nathan leaned back, smirking. "Yeah, come on, Em. You're out there alone, rattling around that big place. I could make it work. Grow crops, maybe some livestock, real business stuff. You'd be helping me out big time." I felt my chest tighten, heat creeping up my neck. "Helping you out? Nathan, you've tanked every business you've touched. Why don't you buy your own land?" Dad slammed his hand on the table, not hard, but enough to make me flinch. "That's enough, Emily. Family helps family. You've got no responsibilities. Nathan's got a wife, a life. It's your duty to step up." Duty. That word hit me like a brick. All those years of being ignored, sidelined, and now they wanted to guilt me into handing over the one thing I'd built for myself? I pushed my chair back, standing up. "No. Absolutely not. That farm is mine, and I'm not giving it to anyone." The room exploded. Mom started listing every little thing they'd done for me, like letting me live at home till I was 18 was some grand favor. Nathan rolled his eyes, muttering, "Typical Emily, always about herself." Dad just kept repeating, "Think about it. Don't be rash." I grabbed my coat, my hands trembling so bad I could barely get it on. "I've thought about it," I said, voice low but firm. The answer's no. I walked out, their voices trailing after me. Mom yelling, "You're letting us down." Nathan calling, "You'll regret this." Driving home, I was a mess. Angry, hurt, but mostly stunned. How could they think I'd just roll over and give up everything? I got back to the farm, locked the door, and sat there in the dark, staring out at the barn. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying it, their words cutting deeper each time. But the worst part? Deep down, I knew this wasn't over. They weren't going to let it go that easy, and I was right. Things were about to get so much uglier. After that dinner, I couldn't shake this heavy feeling, like a storm was brewing and I was right in its path. I tried to focus on work, sketching designs for a new client, but my mind kept drifting back to Mom's guilt trips, Dad's stern duty speech, Nathan's smug grin. I knew they weren't done with me. A couple weeks went by, tense but quiet, and I started to hope maybe they'd let it drop. Then one night, everything changed. It was late, maybe 11 p.m., and I was out in the barn finishing up some mood boards. The farm's pretty isolated. Crickets chirping, wind rustling the trees, that kind of peace you don't get in the city. I heard this faint clank, like metal on metal, coming from the front gate. At first I thought it was nothing, maybe a branch hitting the fence. But it kept going, sharper, deliberate. My heart started pounding. I grabbed a flashlight, crept toward the house, and peeked out the window. There, in the dim glow of the porch light, were two figures messing with the gate lock. One of them was Nathan. I'd know that lanky frame anywhere. The other guy, shorter and stockier, I didn't recognize. I flung the door open, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled. Nathan froze, then turned with this fake casual smile. "Oh, hey, Em. Just, checking on you. Thought I'd swing by." The other guy, Mark, I'd learn later, shoved something into his pocket, probably a tool. Checking on me? At midnight? With a lockpick? I stepped closer, adrenaline pumping. Nathan laughed, but it was nervous. "Don't be dramatic. We were just testing the gate. It's flimsy, you know." I pointed the light right in his face. "Get off my property, now." He smirked, muttered something to Mark, and they slunk off into the night. I stood there, shaking, watching their taillights disappear down the road. That was it. I was done playing nice. The next morning I called a security company and had cameras installed around the farm, front gate, barn, house, everywhere. These weren't cheap ones either. They had motion sensors, night vision, even audio recording. If Nathan tried that stunt again, I'd have proof. I wasn't stopping there, though. I'd always wanted a dog, and now I had a reason. I went to the shelter that weekend and met Rusty, a big, scruffy German Shepherd mix with sharp eyes and a low growl for strangers. The worker said he'd been returned once for being too protective. Perfect. I took him home, and we clicked instantly. He'd curl up by my feet while I worked, but if anyone came near the fence, he'd bark like he owned the place. For a while, things felt safer. Rusty patrolled the yard, the cameras hummed quietly, and I started to breathe easier. But Nathan wasn't done. A few days later, my phone started blowing up with texts from cousins, aunts, people I hadn't talked to in years. "Heard you're hogging that farm all to yourself," one said. "Why not help Nathan out?" another asked. Then a client canceled a consult out of nowhere, saying they'd heard I was unreliable. It didn't take a genius to figure out Nathan was behind it, spreading lies, trying to wear me down. I confronted Mom over the phone. "What's he saying about me?" She sighed, all exasperated. "Emily, he just wants what's best for the family. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Harder? I was furious. This wasn't about family. It was about them wanting what I'd built. I stopped answering their calls after that, but the pressure kept coming. One afternoon, I found a note taped to my mailbox. "Give it up, Em. "You're alone out there." No signature, but I knew Nathan's handwriting. I tossed it in a drawer, figuring the cameras would catch him if he tried anything else. And I was right. They'd catch more than I ever expected. About a month later, I was in the barn late again, Rusty snoozing by the door. I heard that clank again, same spot, same vibe. I checked the camera feed on my phone, and there they were, Nathan and Mark, back at the gate. This time, Mark had a crowbar, prying at the lock while Nathan kept watch. My hands shook as I hit record on the app, zooming in. Rusty woke up, ears perked, growling low. I whispered, "Stay, boy," and watched the screen. They gave up after a few minutes, guessed the new lock was tougher than they thought, and took off. I saved the footage, heart racing. It wasn't just evidence. It was a warning. They were serious. The next week, things got weirder. I'd get random calls from unknown numbers, hang-ups as soon as I answered. A neighbor down the road mentioned seeing a strange car parked near my place during the day. I started sleeping with a baseball bat by my bed, Rusty on high alert every night. I knew they were planning something bigger. I could feel it. What I didn't know was how far they'd go, or how one little feature on those cameras was about to turn everything upside down. See, I'd set them to record audio too, just in case. I figured it'd catch Nathan mouthing off, maybe give me something to scare him with. But what it caught? Oh, it was so much better and so much worse than that. I kept living my life, working, building, refusing to let them win. The farm was mine, and I'd fight for it. Rusty and I had each other's backs, and those cameras, they were my silent witnesses. I thought I was ready for whatever came next. Turns out, I wasn't even close. So things had been tense for weeks. Nathan's break-in attempts, the creepy notes, the rumors he was spreading. I was on edge, but I had Rusty and the cameras, and I figured I could hold my ground. Then one Friday, I got a last-minute call from a client. A hotel project needed me, on site 2 hours away. I'd be gone the whole weekend, especially with everything going on, but it was too big to pass up. My neighbor, Mrs. Carter, this sweet older lady who loved Rusty, promised to check on him. "I'll spoil him rotten," she said, handing him a treat. I laughed, hugged her, and left, feeling a little better. Saturday night, I'm in my hotel room, sketching layouts, when my phone rings. It's Mrs. Carter, and she sounds rattled. "Emily, honey, something's happened. Rusty, he chased someone off your property and bit them. The police are here." My stomach dropped. "Bit someone? Is he okay?" She assured me Rusty was fine, just shaken, but the cops were asking questions. I booked the first flight home, my mind racing the whole way. Who'd been there? What was going on? I pulled up to the farm Sunday morning, and it was chaos. 2 police cars in the driveway, Mrs. Carter wringing her hands, and there they were. Nathan, Mom, Dad, and Mark, Nathan's shady buddy. Nathan was yelling, pointing at Rusty, who was locked in a kennel by the porch. "That dog's a menace. He attacked Mark. Look at his leg." Mark had a bandage wrapped around his calf, hobbling like he'd been mauled. Mom chimed in. "Emily, how could you let that beast loose? He could have killed someone." Dad just glared, arms crossed. "We're pressing charges. You'll pay for this." I knelt by Rusty's kennel, his big eyes looking up at me, confused and scared. "What happened?" I demanded. Nathan smirked. "Mark was just walking by, minding his own business, and your mutt went berserk, jumped the fence, and bit him. He's dangerous, Em. They'll put him down for this." The cop stepped forward, calm but firm. "Ma'am, we got a complaint about an aggressive dog. We'll need to take him for evaluation. If he's a risk, there's a process." My heart sank. Put him down over what? Then it hit me. The cameras. "Wait," I said, pulling out my phone. "I've got security footage. Let's see what really happened." Nathan's smirk faltered just for a second. "That's not necessary," he said quickly. "Mark's hurt. That's all you need to know." But I was already scrolling to the app, praying it had caught something. The cops nodded. "Go ahead, ma'am, we'll look." I opened the feed from Saturday night, and there it was, crystal clear with audio. The video showed Nathan and Mark creeping up to the gate around midnight. Mark had that crowbar again, prying at the lock, while Nathan whispered, "Hurry up, she's gone till tomorrow." Rusty's growl cut through the night as he bolted from the porch, fur bristling. Then, bam! Mark kicked at him, hard, yelling, "Get off, you stupid dog!" Rusty lunged, biting Mark's leg, but let go the second Mark stumbled back. And then, the kicker. Nathan's voice loud and clear. "Good, let him bleed a little. We'll say the dog attacked and she'll have to give us the farm to save it." Mark groaned. "You sure?" Nathan laughed. "Trust me, she's too soft to fight this." The air went dead silent as the video ended. The cops turned to Nathan, eyebrows raised. My parents' faces went white. Mark stared at the ground, clutching his leg. I felt sick, but also this wild surge of relief. "That's not walking by," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline. "They broke in. Rusty was protecting my home." Nathan stammered. It was a joke. We weren't serious." Mark nodded fast. "Yeah, just messing around, you know." The cop wasn't buying it. "Looks like attempted trespass to me, maybe more with that audio." I turned to my parents. "You knew about this?" Mom started, "Emily, we just wanted," but I cut her off. "Save it. I'm done." I called them all back to the farm that afternoon, told them we needed to talk. They showed up, smug as ever, thinking they still had the upper hand. Nathan even kicked back in my living room, saying, "Gonna need new furniture when we move in." Mom nodded. "Something more practical." I let them ramble, then said, "Before we settle anything, watch this." I hooked my phone to the TV, hit play, and stood back. Their jaws dropped as the footage rolled. Nathan's plan laid bare, Mark's kick, Rusty's defense. When it finished, Nathan jumped up. "It's edited. She's lying." Dad tried. "Emily, let's keep this private, huh? No need for drama." Mom just stared, mouth open. I smiled. "Too late. Cops are on their way." Right on cue, a knock at the door. I opened it, and 4 officers walked in. "Got a call about a break-in and blackmail," one said. I handed over the footage, explained everything. Nathan and Mark went pale as the cuffs came out. Mom sobbed, "Emily, please, we're family." But I just looked at her, years of hurt boiling over. "You stopped being family when you tried to steal my life." The cops led them out, and for the first time in forever, I felt free. After that showdown in my living room, everything moved fast. The cops took Nathan and Mark away, their faces a mix of shock and panic as the handcuffs clicked. Mom and Dad trailed after them, Mom still crying, Dad muttering about fixing this. I shut the door behind them, leaned against it, and just breathed. It was over. Well, almost. There was still a mess to clean up, but for the first time I felt like I was in control. The next day I headed to the shelter to get Rusty back. The second he saw me, his tail went wild, thumping against the kennel bars. I dropped to my knees, let him lick my face till I was laughing through tears. "You're a hero, buddy," I whispered, scratching his ears. The worker smiled, handing me his leash. "He's all yours. Cleared of everything, self-defense, plain and simple. I took him home, and that night we sat on the porch together, watching the sun dip below the fields. It felt like a weight had lifted off my chest. A few weeks later, Nathan and Mark faced the music. With that camera footage, video, and audio, it was an open and shut case. Attempted trespassing, blackmail, the works. They didn't go to jail, but the judge hit them with hefty fines, most of which got awarded to me for damages. Probation followed, and I heard Nathan's business contacts dropped him like a hot potato after the story spread. Mom and Dad tried calling a few times, leaving voicemails about working things out, but I didn't pick up. I was done letting them drag me back into their guilt trips. The rest of the family, though? That was a surprise. I'd had enough of the rumors Nathan spread, so I sent a group email to every aunt, uncle, and cousin I could think of, laid it all out, what he'd done, why I'd fought back, and attached the footage as proof. I hit send and braced myself for more backlash. Instead, my inbox flooded with support. My cousin Lisa wrote, "I had no idea they were like this. Sorry we believed him." Aunt June called, practically in tears, saying, "You're so strong, Emily. We're proud of you." Even the judgy ones who'd texted me before went quiet or apologized. Nathan and my parents, they were the outcasts now. No invites to family picnics, no holiday cards. Karma, I guess. With all that behind me, I threw myself back into the farm. Business was booming. Clients loved the story of the designer who fought for her dream, and the barn studio became this hot spot for creative types. I started hosting workshops, painters, photographers, even a pottery group once. The farm wasn't just a home anymore. It was a community. I'd walk Rusty through the fields every evening, feeling this quiet pride I hadn't known I could have. I'd done this me, not them. Then, about 6 months later, something new happened. I was running a photography workshop in the barn, teaching folks how to style spaces for shoots, when this guy named Daniel showed up. He was a freelance photographer, maybe 37, with a warm smile and this easy way about him. He'd brought his dog, a goofy lab named Daisy, who hit it off with Rusty right away. We got talking during a break about the farm, our work, how we both loved dogs more than most people. He laughed when I told him about Rusty chasing off Nathan. "Sounds like a legend," he said, nodding at my pup. We swapped numbers after the workshop, and soon we were texting nonstop. Dog pics, dumb jokes, then deeper stuff. Turns out Daniel had his own family baggage, parents who never got his artsy career, so we bonded over that too. Our first date was a hike with the dogs, and by the third he was helping me repaint the barn door. Daisy sprawled out next to Rusty in the sun. It wasn't some big flashy romance, just steady, real, the kind of thing I didn't know I'd been missing. Now, a year later, life's better than I ever pictured. The farm's thriving. I've got bookings through next summer. Daniel's around a lot, shooting projects in the barn or just hanging out with me and the dogs. We're taking it slow, but it feels right. The other day, I caught myself standing in the middle of the field, Rusty at my side, the barn glowing in the sunset. I thought about that kid I used to be, sketching alone in her room, desperate for someone to notice. And I smiled because I didn't need that anymore. "This is mine," I said out loud, the wind carrying my words across the land, "and no one's taking it from me." Nathan, my parents, they tried, but they lost. Me, I won. My home, my peace, my life. And honestly, that's the best ending I could have asked for.